Yeah, Khadija, thank you, about makarim al-akhlaq. That's what she recognized, why God would not forsake him, because of his character. It was his character. She didn't say, oh, you believe in one God and these are all mushrikeen. No, she said, your character is too good. That's what she saw. It was his character. And this is why when he said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ, I was only sent, even though that's a hasar al-idafi, not haqiqi, but I was only sent to perfect good character. And so in this hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, verily actions are by intentions. Amal يطلق مجازا على أعمال القلب, right? Metaphorically, it can be used to talk about actions of the heart. But actions here are actions of the abdan. They are physical actions. What you do in the world, how you impact the world is based on your intentions. Because the heart, the actions of the heart do not need intentions. It would be tahsil al-hasil. And so it's what you do that needs intentions. What are your intentions? Intentionality is extremely important. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Actions are only by intentions. إِنَّمَا in the Arabic language is called adatul hasri. It is a means by which we limit something. And bab al-hasr is a very important bab in balagha. And you have what's called haqiqi and idafi. The haqiqi is when it's, إِنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ, your God is only one God. That's like haqiqa, that's all there is. You can also use innama for, like if you say, إِنَّمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا لَعِبٌ وَلَهْوٌ, surely life is only play and diversion. That's not for everybody. So that's idafi, it's not haqiqa. Yudaf ila ahli dunya. For ahli dunya, for the people of dunya, إِنَّمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا لَعِبٌ وَلَهْوٌ وَزِينَةٌ, right? That's for them. But for ahlul akhirah, نِعْمَ الْمَطِيَّةُ الدُّنْيا, what a good vehicle the world is for a believer. It's a good thing for a believer. Why? Because they don't use it for play and pastime. They have play and pastime, but that's their recreation. It's just repose for them to get back to the real work of the dunya, right? And the Prophet said there's no good in your play except for three things, right? So play is something that's important. And we know it's the work of children also. Play is very important for children. And in Surah Yusuf it says they went out to play. So children should play. And depriving children of play creates sociopathic children. It's a terrible thing. If you want to read a very horrible example of that, just read the life of John Stuart Mill, how his father raised him as a child and what it did to him. So niyat in the Arabic language comes from Noah. Now Noah one of the means is a seed. In fact, taqa nawawiyya, nuclear powers, because the nucleus is the Noah. So the nucleus of your action, in other words, what's really giving life to the action is the intention. And so behind every action is an intention. Now, ghafla is one of the states of the human being. A human being is in ghafla, which means that we're in a type of heedlessness, distractibility, and this is what the pre-Muslim peoples called, in Christianity it was called acedia, the sin of distractibility. It's one of the 7 deadly sins, because if you're in a state of acedia, in other words, if you're in a state of ghafla, then it's, in Christianity it was considered a mortal sin. It would destroy your soul. Imam al-Junayd argued that ghafla was the foundational sin, because even kibr came out of ghafla, because you were unaware of yourself. And so ghafla is a very dangerous thing. Ghafala in Arabic Mughaffal is like a simpleton. It's a stupid person. It's an easily fooled person. So they can be distracted easily. So we now are in a civilization of distraction. In fact, advertisement. What is an advert? What's it mean? And does anybody know the root of that word in Latin? To turn your attention to something. In other words, to distract you. So we're living in a civilization of distraction. Everything's a distraction now. People don't focus. So when actions are, now some of them say that Noah, it's actually, the origin of it is wana. And this is one of the interesting things about Arabic, is that in ilm al-ishtiqaq, you have masadir, because, and this is a debate amongst the ulama of language, lexicologists and philologists. Is the verbal noun the source of the word, or is the verb? And it's an important metaphysical debate because it relates to whether stasis or motion is the origin, whether things are nouns at their essence or whether they are actions, whether they're substantives or whether they're actions, because the world was created with an action, right? It was the fi'l of Allah that created the world. And so is the source motion or is the source stability? Now, the noun one won out because Allah is the ultimate noun. Allah, in fact, Aristotle called him the unmoved mover. But determining a masdar from a verb is not always easy. For instance, ismun, is it from wasama, right? Or is it from sama yasmu? Is it from wasama yasimu or from sama yasmu? Or is it both? So the debate about wana or Noah, one of them means qasada yaqsidu and the other means abta'a yubti'u. So wana, like ta'anni min ar-Rahman. So is the intention from deliberation? Because in order for you to do an action with intention, you have to deliberate. De liberare, right? Out of freedom. So deliberation is choice. So an action that's done with an intention is an action of the free will. So you are acting willfully with free will. You're not reacting because reactions aren't intentional. And this is why if you look at the verse in Surah An-Nisa 34, when Allah is telling the man, if she gives you a problem, give her wa'al. If she keeps giving you a problem, then don't sleep with her. If she keeps giving you a problem, give her a light slap, right? That's how it was interpreted. غير مبرح. I mean, it's very clear. But if you think, and this is what Tahir ibn Ashur and others have said, and this makes perfect sense to me, all of domestic violence comes from reaction. It's never deliberate. The man just slugs her. You know, yada, 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 boom! And then that's it. He's not thinking, he's not deliberating, he's not acting out of, right? Like, you know, one of these days. So when you force the man to stop, I can't just hit her, I have to give her a wow, right? So then he's giving her a wow, and then that's not working. I have to, you know, discipline myself, right? As well as her. That's going to end domestic violence. It's not going to breed domestic violence. And that's actually, Tahir ibn Ashur said that those verses were revealed to end domestic violence by maintaining the dignity of the Arab man. Because what did the Prophet try to do? He tried to end domestic violence by letting the woman hit the man back if she hits him. And he was on his way to let this woman, and the verse got revealed, and the Prophet said, I wanted something. In other words, I wanted the woman to be able to hit the man, right? Equality. And God wanted something. He wanted to end domestic violence and not insult the dignity of the Arab male, some of whom would end up leaving Islam if their women could hit them, because they were very proud men. It's like, okay, this is too far. I could take giving up the alcohol, but now my woman gets to beat me. So that's an example of deliberation. To deliberate, to act freely. And it's a very difficult thing, which is why free will is the greatest burden that Allah has given us. It's the amana, according to many of our mufassirun. إِنَّ عَرَضْنَا الْأَمَانَةَ عَلَى السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَالْجِبَالِ فَأَبَيْنَ أَنْ يَحْمِلْنَهَا وَأَشْفَقْنَ مِنْهَا. Allah presented this free will to the heavens, to the earth, to the mountains, and they said, we can't do it. وَأَشْفَقْنَ مِنْهَا, it's too much. وَحَمَلَهَا الْإِنسَانِ. But man said, no, I can do it. إِنَّهُ كَانَ ظَلُومًا جَهُولًا. Oppressive and ignorant, not knowing the weightiness of what he's been given. And so, free will is this weighty thing that Allah has given us, and that's why actions should be free. And in order for them to be free, they have to have deliberation, done from freedom, with thought, with intention, not reaction. Muslims now are in a completely reactionary mode. They react to everything. They react to news, they don't think anymore. We don't think. What are we doing? Where is this going? We just join things without thinking. We do actions without thinking. And then horrible things happen. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, Imam Ibn Majah relates it, أَنَا أَغْنَى الشُّرَكَاءِ عَنِ الشِّرْكِ فَمَنْ عَمِلَ عَمَلًا. I am the one who is completely independent or absolutely free of the need of any partners. So whoever does an action, أَشْرَكَنِي بِهِ, and then associates with me that action, فَأَنَا مِنْهُ بَرِيءٌ. I have nothing to do with that action. Nothing to do whatsoever with that action. وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. They were only commanded to worship Allah with ikhlas. What is ikhlas? قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. That's ikhlas. It's doing things for Allah alone. Tawheed. That's why it's the chapter of Tawheed in the Quran. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ is the chapter of Tawheed. Ikhlas is to make your intention one. يُوَحِّدُ نِيَّتُهُ. Purity of the heart is to will one thing, God. And then, so the ulama say, and the Prophet ﷺ said that the thing that he feared most for his ummah, even more than the Masih al-Dajjal, was a shirk al-asghar, the lesser shirk. What is that? Riya. So the two things that will destroy your actions, al-ujbu wa-riya, is being impressed by your actions because you're not seeing the minnah of Allah in your actions. You're attributing your action to yourself, which leads to arrogance. Look at all I've done. Like the man praying, and one of the men in the masjid sees him, and he says, SubhanAllah, that man, I see him every day, he prays, he does this, he does that, he says that. And then the man says, and I'm fasting too, right? So there's people that's what they want, and they get their reward. That famous hadith in Muslim and others that on the Yawm al-Qiyamah, the scholar comes, the mujahid comes, and the generous man comes. What's the scholar? What did you do? تَعْلَمْتُ الْعِلْمَ لِوَجْهِكَ يَا Allah. I learned knowledge for your sake. كَذَبْتَ. You're a liar. You learned it to be called a scholar, and that's what they called you. You got your reward. The mujahid. Why did you? I fought to make your word high. You're a liar. You fought to be called brave. And the one I donated for the sake of, you're a liar. You donated to be called a generous man. And you were called that. There's your reward. You got your reward because that's why you did it. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Now, Imam al-Ghazali, Ibn Daqiq al-Eid, is a little harsher because he said if there's if it's not solely for the sake of Allah, you don't get any reward. Imam al-Ghazali, who I think understood the human heart probably a little better, said, no, if it's shirk al-asghar, they will get the reward to the degree with which it was done for Allah. And Allah will just, the punishment for the riyah in the reward is that the amount that was done for other people, and only Allah could know that, obviously. But Imam Malik was once asked, what do you say about a man who leaves to the mosque solely for the sake of Allah, but on the way, it occurs to his heart he hopes somebody sees him. And he said, I hope he gets the original intention. Because obviously, it's just nafs. We all like to be praised. We all like people to say this, that, or the other. That's what the nafs is. And until you master the nafs, until praise and the blame is equal to you, then you're in trouble and you're in danger. And that's why we're all essentially in danger always. And we should have that fear about our actions. لا يأمن النفاق إلا المنافق. The only one safe from hypocrisy, Hasan al-Basri said, the only one safe from hypocrisy is the hypocrite. He feels safe. Whereas a believer is worried. Umar ibn al-Khattab, who relates his hadith, went to Hudayfa, who knew all the hypocrites, Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, and he said, أنشدك بالله ترى في ما ترى فيهم. Do you see in me what you know about the hypocrites? Because the Prophet told him all the hypocrites. He said, no, you weren't among them. Alhamdulillah. But the fact that he was worried about it, Umar ibn al-Khattab, that he was worried that he was in that list of hypocrites. And so then وَإِنَّمَا only لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. And imra is interesting because it's one of those words, it's like German Mensch. It's a male, female. It's traditionally this is what man meant. People don't like it anymore, right? A woman is a woman, a womb man. Like she's a man with a womb, right? I mean, we're all men in that way. That's originally what the word meant, it was male and female. But we've got this politically correct world that we live in now, so we can't talk like that anymore. So we have to like he/she, which drives me crazy. And I don't actually mind using, because the Quran does that, right? وَمَنْ يَعْمَلَ الصَّالِحَاتِ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ. See, huwa, mu'min, goes back to dhakar wa untha. So it says, from male or female, don't get this confused. Wahuwa, the male or the female, is mu'minun, right? So that today is called sexist language. Astaghfirullah. I would say that it's kufr if you find a problem with that language that Allah is using. So it's better. I once had a teacher who demanded that I write she/he or he/he. And I said, if I can prove to you that nature has gender biased language, would you accept just he? He said, all right. And I said, well, I have XY chromosome, but my sister only has XX. So I've got my mother and father's genetic material, but she's only got the maternal side of my father and the maternal side of my mother. So nature's biased. He said, that's a pretty clever argument, but you still have to write he, she.